Welcome developers to a video in which we get back in touch with JavaScript basics by seeing how three exciting applications were developed with JavaScript. Whether you are a beginner taking your first steps in JavaScript or an advanced developer looking for some creative challenges, this video is designed to captivate and inspire you. From this video, beginners will grasp the fundamentals of DOM manipulation and some other fundamental constructs of JavaScript, while advanced developers can take this as a dev challenge and explore optimization techniques and alternative approaches to solve these problems. Okay, here is a palindrome checker, and if we enter a word which is a palindrome like ABBA, and palindromes read the same forward as backward. So if you read ABBA from forward, so from behind, ABBA is the same word. So if you click on verify, it tells you that the word is a palindrome. And if you enter another word, let's say rather, which is also a palindrome because you can read rather from behind and it's going to read the same. If you click on verify, it tells you that the word also is a palindrome. And if we enter a word which is not a palindrome, like let's say angry, and click on verify, it tells you that the word is not a palindrome. So let's take a quick peek into our code. And for those who are already advanced JavaScript developers, you can already try this out. So let's take a look at our code here. In our HTML, we just have an input, our H1 here first of all, for the heading. We have this input for this text input, and we have the button and we have the paragraph. So we have our JavaScript linked to the HTML, and our JavaScript now is what we are going to be taking a look at, which is our point of interest. So what we do is we first of all start by selecting all the DOM elements we are going to be manipulating in our JavaScript. So here we select the verify button, the palindrome input, and the completion text because we know that that's what's going to be changing. So we have this method here, reverse, which is a method that takes a string and reverses that string. Look at the logic we use to reverse the string. We first of all call this split method, passing the empty string in the split method, and what this part returns is an array. So after it returns the array, we reverse the array by calling the reverse method on the array. Then we join the array, we join back the array to get the string. So this reverse method is going to take a string and reverse the string. Then we have a check palindrome method. This method here is now going to take a string also as well. Then it returns a boolean based on whether the string is a palindrome or not. So the way we verify whether the string is a palindrome is we reverse that string calling this reverse method, and we compare whether the reverse string is equal to the initial string. And if they are the same, we return true that the word is a palindrome. If not, we return false. So we have now this other method, set result in UI, which takes a boolean. So this is palindrome is a boolean, and if the word is a palindrome, we just display the word is a palindrome in the text area. And if the word is not a palindrome, we return the word is not a palindrome. Then everything starts when the user clicks on this button. So add an event listener to the button. And when the user clicks on that button, we call this set result in UI method, passing in the check if palindrome is boolean method, which takes the palindrome value. So what happens is this method, the method inside here is first of all evaluated. So it checks if the word is a palindrome, returns a boolean if the word is a palindrome. Then this set result in UI now, based on whether the word is a palindrome or not, displays the word is a palindrome or displays the word is not a palindrome. So that's just the simple logic we have for this first application, and that's what's permitting us accomplish all what we saw. Our next app is the 7-segment display. Okay, so here's the 7-segment display, and when you enter a number, let's say 0, it displays the number in these 7 segments of this interface as you see here. So if you enter 2, it displays 2. If you enter 3 and hit enter, it displays 5. Sorry, if you enter 5. If you enter 7, it displays 7. So any number I enter from 0 to 9 is going to display the number here. And you can pause the video and try to see how you can implement this, and we're going to take a look at the logic which I implemented for this 7 segment. So as usual, take a look first of all at our HTML. Take a look at our HTML. What I just have here are some divs. So basically all these segments of the 7-segment display are divs. So this top, all this top center, top left, top right, center, bottom left, bottom right, and bottom. All of them are divs. So I just place them, I just position them well using some CSS. Then I gave them different IDs of top left, top center, bottom left, bottom center. So that we can. So if I try to inspect, so that I actually see the different IDs I'm talking about. If I click here, see that here you have the top, center, and horizontal. So the general idea is I gave all these horizontal divs a class of horizontal as well, and all these vertical divs I gave them a class of vertical as well. In addition to the general classes I applied to them, I gave each of them individual classes so that I can grab them also individually. I gave this one a class of top center, bottom left, bottom right, center, top left, and top right. Okay, with that out of the way, if we go to our JavaScript, which has been linked to our HTML, See that the code now becomes very easy, because after we have selected all those different elements with their different IDs from the DOM, the only thing we need now to listen to is a submit event listener on the form. So when the user enters some text into this text area and hits his enter key on the keyboard, it's going to trigger this submit event listener. So when this submit event listener is fired, it takes in the event. So prevent the default so that the browser does not refresh. We grab the number from the input, and all we do now is we use some switch cases to verify the input the user entered. So if we take a look here, first of all, initialize the color of all the horizontal and vertical bars by iterating through this horizontal. This horizontal and vertical are classes which have been applied to all the horizontal and vertical bars, and I selected them from the DOM using the query selector all on the DOM. So when I have all these horizontal and vertical bars, they are inside an array of horizontal and vertical. So I can iterate through that array and set the background color to be this light gray, so that they have this initial color you see here. So this is the light gray on all the bars. Then what I do now is I look at the number which the user entered. In case it's 0, I know the top center bar, which is this one, the bottom center bar, which is this one, and all the vertical bars, which are the vertical bars, they have to be black. So when the user enters 0, for example, I just grab all those different divs and I set their colors to be black. So I give all of them a color of black. And that's the same when the user enters 1. I just look at the positions which have to be darkened. So in this case, I see that there are all the vertical bars which are at the left, so the top left and the top right and the bottom right, the top right and the bottom right bars. I make them black by using this other switch keys, and I apply the same logic to all the other inputs the user enters, so I have that output. So if you see here now, the main idea is being able to understand the simple control block to use. In this case was the switch keys, because with this switch I can just evaluate the input and decide to perform some action based on what the user entered, and just the fact that I can use some JavaScript here to dynamically change the style for an HTML element with the submit event listener also as well. Okay, so this is our final app, which is a bit more technical because it has more moving parts into this one. And guys, if you're already getting some value from this tutorial, just leave a like below the video there, and let's continue with this one. So this application is a simple game where you enter a word and we add the word to this word history, and the next word you are entering has to start with the first letter. The first letter of the next word has to be the last letter of the word you just entered, and there's a countdown, which if the countdown goes to 0 without you being correct, you have failed the game. So let me demo what I'm talking about. So I enter a word here, like let's say word, let's just say game, and notice that the countdown starts going to 0. We have the word inside the history here, game. So the next word I'm entering has to start with the letter E, because this word ended with the letter E. So if I enter something now like enamel, for example, I hit enter, you notice that the enamel is added and the countdown started again from 30. And the countdown started from 30 because that's level 1. If I change the level, the countdown is going to start from a smaller value. And if I stay without entering a new word and the countdown goes to 0, I fail the game. So let's enter a word which is going to make me fail the game. So the next word I need to enter has to start with L. But if I enter a word like egg, which starts with E instead, and hit enter, I fail the game because the word I entered didn't start with L. So that's the game, and you notice this game over text now that appears, and the start over button. I can click on the start over and start the game all over. Notice the select level here, I can change the level. If I change the level to level 2, the countdown will start from 20. And if I change the level to level 1, to level TV, which is a more difficult level, the countdown starts from 10. So if I enter something like animal, hit enter, the countdown starts going to 0. And if before the countdown reaches 0, I've not yet entered the word that starts with this L, I fail the game. Okay. So notice the game has really many moving parts. You have the select input here where we have to choose the input and perform some actions. We have the text input here, we have the word history, we have the countdown, we have this text game over and start over that starts the game over. So let me open our inspector and let's move to our code. That's this one, word game. Okay, so in our index.html, as usual, we have the different HTML elements that make up our UI. We have normally our select, we have our h1 here, we have our word history div, we have our text here, and all of them, I've just given them some IDs so that we can grab them from our app.js and perform the different tasks on them. So if I inspect here, see that this one has an h1, this is the h1, this is a select with an ID of select and a class of rounded corners so that it has rounded corners. This guy is an input with an ID of input and a class of rounded corners to give you rounded corners. We have this word history and h2, and we have this div with a class with an ID of word history. We have this paragraph here with an ID of countdown, and let me start the game and fail so that we look at the IDs of the other. So we have this other one now with an ID of game over, this paragraph, and we have this other button with an ID of start over. So with all of that in place, we can grab these different HTML elements by their ID in our JavaScript. So I've grabbed all of them by their ID, and we initialize some variables here. Level 1, because we know that when the game starts, the level is level 1, so we initialize the level to level 1. We have these other variables, and now we have our methods here. We have initialize new game method, and what this method does is it sets the current word to an empty string. If you notice here, there is no word when the user starts the game, because current word is an empty string, and we have current word, the current words element value is an empty string. We have this word history. When the game starts, the word history is an empty array. We have the game over and start over, which will give them a display of none so that they don't display in our HTML. We have this initialize countdown method, which we call also when the initialize new game is called. So the initialize countdown just looks at the level which the user selected. So in case the level is 1, the countdown should be 30. In case the level is 2, it's 20, and in case it's 3, it's 10. Then we take now the countdown element and we set it to the HTML. So the main thing is we have to also be ensuring that the HTML reflects what is happening here in our JavaScript code. We have the start countdown method, and the start countdown method, what it does is you know that we're using here is set interval. So we grab the countdown ID, then we call the set interval method here, and each time we're decrementing the counter. So the countdowns element in the HTML, we want the HTML to reflect the fact that the countdown is decrementing. So we have to set the text content of what's in the HTML to be the countdown's string value. Then we check if the countdown is 0. If the countdown has reduced to 0, then we call the endgame method. So we look at this endgame method, and if you are really understanding what's happening here, the general idea is creating these different functions. It makes your code more modular. So at the end of the day, if you look at this, it's just some JavaScript code which we are putting up to basically have that functionality. And guys, that's it. I'm going to leave this code on GitHub so that you can reference it after trying the challenge, or if you have something you want to check up, you can reference the code on GitHub. I'm going to leave it there. So guys, if you got some value from this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this, and comment below if there is some incomprehension.